Have you ever tried on clothes in a fitting room and nothing looks good on you, so you assume something is wrong with your body and the shitty feeling kind of just lingers around the whole day and makes you question whether or not you're attractive in the first place? 'Cause same. If you've experienced this very specific situation too, you've experienced beauty sickness. Beauty sickness is the chronic focus on beauty that directs cognitive, financial, and emotional resources away from other more important goals. This obsession with beauty has just made me question what we lose in the pursuit of beauty and the cost of our obsession with it. What do we actually lose from obsessing over beauty? Well, if you have low self-esteem, odds are you're also doing something called body monitoring. So body monitoring is when you can't help but constantly check your appearance. A part of your mind is carved out to constantly monitor how you look at any given moment. And just like how chronically checking your phone is bad for you, chronically monitoring your appearance is just as bad for you, if not worse. Both carve up our attention and energy in their own ways, but still terrible altogether. So I'll make an analogy with money. Let's say you have $1,000 worth of attention at the beginning of the day. Every time you make a comment like, do my legs look fat? Do these jeans give me muffin top? Does my skin look oily? For every comment, imagine taking $30 out of this bank account. And if you're particularly toxic towards yourself and say things like, I look like a whale, you're losing $100. Before you know it, at the end of the day, you've depleted almost all of this money just thinking about your appearance. Our attention and focus are some of the most important resources we have. Companies literally fight tooth and nail over it, but we give it away so easily when it comes to surveilling our appearance. But one thing kept bothering me. Where did these beauty standards even come from? Throughout human evolutionary history, the males who were better at mate selection were likely sensitive to visual cues that signaled fertility and health in women. A lot of the traits that signal fertility and health are traits that we find beautiful today, like youth, clear skin, symmetry, and an hourglass body. I think that for women, it meant that having these traits made them more likely to attract men, which explains why the women today want to pursue these traits. But I've always thought that this reproduction angle was super weird because, like, who's trying to have kids these days? There's no way men are walking around and thinking about how breedable women look, but we have to remember, even if culturally right now we don't want to have babies, we can't undo the millions of years of evolution that says that we had to have babies to survive. Beauty sickness and body monitoring can undermine your potential and hold you back in life without you even knowing, which is really scary. In a study, researchers wanted to test how body shame affects cognitive performance. They asked women to try on a bathing suit in private and then take a math exam. In one study, they found that the women who tried on the bathing suit did worse on the math exam. This has a lot of implications in real life. If you're a student, it can be harder to focus in class if you keep getting distracted by how you look. You might end up doing worse on an exam compared to someone who doesn't body monitor. It can also affect other areas of our lives, like our careers. Let's say you have a Zoom meeting at work. You can't really focus in the meeting and listen to what people are saying if you keep getting distracted by how you look in the camera. And if you have a job interview, you just can't perform as well if you're worried about how your hair looks and how your clothes fit. And that can be the difference between you getting the job or not getting the job. Appearance anxiety can also make it harder to be in a relationship. If you hide parts of your body that you hate from your partner, it'll be harder to be intimate with them. Chasing the beauty ideal means never having true mental peace because a part of your mind is always preoccupied with how you look. It holds us back from our true potential. Here's a TikTok that sums up what I'm trying to say.
Talk to them.
No, I'm not cute.
Oh my God.
I'm not cute. They won't like me. No.
You are a waste of potential.
Damn.
You're a waste of potential. If I looked like you, I'd be in the streets more than a New York City pigeon. All right? You're too fine to be in the house.
Humans are innately sensitive to beauty. In a study, babies were shown pictures of photos that were already rated by adults for attractiveness, and they found that the babies showed clear preference for photos of the more attractive faces, spending a longer time looking at them than photos of less attractive faces. It's in the media's favor to take advantage of this vulnerability and make money off of it, as we do in a capitalist society. TikTok knows this all too well, which is why they have an algorithm that specifically can rate beauty. They know that attractive people keep your attention longer. Marketing agencies also know this, which is why they put beautiful people in ads because they know it'll be hard to look away. Here's the thing though, in reality, extreme beauty is very rare. But since we're exposed to beautiful people on a daily basis, it makes us think that extreme beauty is more common than it really is. Online, you'll see a very curated group of celebrities and people who are like the top 5% of the most attractive people in the world. Let's say 5%. I don't know if it's 5, but I'll just say 5 for example's sake. So even though they are 5% of the population, we're disproportionately exposed to them online. Not only does it make us think that extreme beauty is more common than it really is, it makes us think that their level of attractiveness is the average. Inevitably, you feel less attractive because you think that everyone looks like that but you. But if you walk outside and you look at the world for what it is, you'll see that there are tons of different faces, tons of different body shapes all around us. We're not seeing Instagram models walk around on every block. And that is because the online world makes it easy for us to forget the true landscape of how people look like. You'd think that seeing visually pleasing faces all the time is harmless and maybe even a good thing. Our brain literally releases dopamine when we see an attractive person. But the awe and fascination that you feel when you see an attractive person doesn't mean that it is healthy to be always exposed to it. Have you ever heard anyone say that they scrolled through Instagram, saw dozens of photos of models, and they walked away feeling more rejuvenated? Because that just is not a thing. It's always the opposite. What we do get from being exposed to beauty in such excess are alarming rates of appearance anxiety, eating disorders, depression, body dissatisfaction, and low self-esteem. For millions of years of evolution, no human ever saw a face as beautiful as we now see every day in ads. We don't get away with seeing this much beauty without facing the consequences because our brains were literally not built to handle this much beauty. I also feel like the internet has this tendency to beauty worship. I think there's a difference between passively seeing beauty and actively seeking it out and worshiping it. I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say that beauty worship is probably unhealthy, mostly because I think that people beauty worship so that they have a goal to strive for. I think it's normal to get inspiration on how we want to look, but so easily can that become obsessive and unhealthy. For example, the celebrity being worshipped might have the ideal body, so someone might use that as inspiration on how skinny they might want to be. I think the trap here is that their look is usually unrealistic and unattainable, like they've probably had a team of makeup artists, stylists, so you just end up feeling more dissatisfied with yourself because you couldn't look like that. I have an example of this when I was a teenager. There were these makeup artists I would watch online and they all had Western eyelids, so they had the double eyelid, and no matter what I did, my eyes would just not look like theirs simply because I have Asian eyes. No matter how much makeup you take on, you're not going to look like you have Western eyelids. And I guess there wasn't one particular person I worshipped, but it was a certain look that I was going after and was not realistic for me. And it's hard for me to say that we should just find more realistic representations of beauty because why have beauty role models in the first place? I think it's healthier to be inspired by someone because of their talent and what they can do instead of how they look. Fashion trends also have a strong influence on how we perceive our bodies. Back then, women were expected to cover most of their body, but as it got more acceptable to show more skin, clothes got shorter and tighter, and body parts that were previously hidden were now exposed. When arms and legs got exposed, women now had to shave their legs and armpits so that they were more presentable. It's kind of ironic how even though technically we're freer to show more of our skin, it's a bit more stressful now because we have to worry about how those body parts look. Another way that clothes can affect how we perceive our bodies are body trends, especially those that involve decorative clothing. Decorative clothes are uncomfortable and restrictive clothes, but are worn anyway because they look really good. On the opposite end, we'll have what I'll call functional clothing, which tend to prioritize the function over the looks. In my mind, all clothes fall somewhere on the spectrum. The farther you move towards decorative clothing, the more you're trading off in mental peace for the fit. The reason why I think that decorative clothes can affect our body image is because of the example I gave earlier. Sometimes a new fashion trend comes around and we try it and it looks bad on our bodies, so we end up blaming ourselves instead of the clothes. Not all trends are designed for our bodies. In fact, most trends are designed for some specific body. If a trend doesn't work for your body, you shouldn't blame yourself because that's a designer's fault, not yours. I think there's something to be said about making clothes that fit women instead of making women fit into clothes, because ideally clothes should be supporting our lifestyle, not the other way around. If I find myself having to dramatically change my lifestyle to accommodate a piece of clothing, it's a sign that I just have to let it go and move on, because there are just way too many pieces of clothing in this world for me to get hung up on this one thing that didn't work on my body. This is one of the things I'm so conflicted about because I am personally very drawn to decorative clothes. I think it's because functional clothes tend to play it very safe in its design, but decorative clothes tend to take more risks with the color and the shape, so it just looks more visually interesting. So I don't think it's realistic to banish decorative clothing from my closet forever. But I think it is realistic to ask ourselves if we really want to be in decorative clothing all the time. There's something really annoying about going out with people and having to constantly adjust my skirt because maybe it's too short or whatever. Like, I really want to just be present and be having fun and not be worrying about showing ass because my skirt is too short. So for the past few years, I've just been trying to be more intentional about the decorative clothes I introduce into my life. I read somewhere that the best way to win in the casino is to fucking leave because all the games are rigged. And I think the same thing can be applied to this beauty rat race we have going on. The beauty ideal is meant to be unrealistic and unattainable. If everyone were to achieve the beauty ideal, it's no longer an ideal. Like casino games, the beauty game is very rigged against our favor. Since beauty is so pervasive, I don't think it's possible to entirely exit the game, which to me looks like never wearing makeup, not caring about clothes, whatever. I don't think that's possible, but I think it is realistic to minimize the effect it has on our self-esteem. So here are some strategies and some thoughts that I've picked up over the years that have helped me and maybe will help you. I want to start with my philosophy on taking pictures. Instead of seeing photos as something I'm supposed to look good for, I see them as a way to capture memories that I can look back on. Trying to look pretty in a photo, trying to get the perfect photo, is the easiest, most surest way to suck out the joy from an experience. If I'm getting dinner with someone and we take a photo and the photo turns out bad, I try to move on and not force the photo to happen. I'd rather spend my time enjoying my dinner than obsessing over getting the right photo. It's important to keep in mind that if we do get a bad photo, that we're not the 5 bad photos that we take. We all have an unflattering angle. I think it's weirder if someone doesn't have an unflattering angle. And sometimes a photo turns out poorly because of lens distortion, the lighting was ass, or the wind was blowing our hair one way and it looked really weird. A lot of factors go into how a photo turns out, so it'd be unfair to judge ourselves on the 5 or even 30 bad photos we take. I like to think that we are what we consume, so if you consume more appearance-driven content, your thoughts will also become more appearance-driven. Out of all the apps, for me, the worst one is TikTok. There was this filter on TikTok that was trending that would show you how you would look like in the future when you're old, and every time I've seen people use it, it's always them hating on how they look when they're older, which is very sad and only perpetuates the fear of aging, which is unnecessary. Since this type of content is kind of inescapable on TikTok, I think it's best to just stay off the platform altogether. And if you can't, because it's very addicting and sometimes I find myself going back too, use the not interested button so that you stop getting recommended that type of content. It is a very useful tool. Anyway, Instagram is also very appearance driven. For Instagram, it's best to unfollow celebrities or public figures where the conversation always seems to revolve around how they look. And you know these people, you know who I'm talking about. I forgot where I read this, but when women look at photos of other women, their eyes immediately go to the place that they're most insecure about. I think that's really dangerous, especially on Instagram, because it's very easy to start comparing your body to like other women's bodies. Before you follow someone, make sure you think about whether you're following them for the right reasons. Like, are you friends with them, or is this like another celebrity, a model who you're following because they have a nice aesthetic or a nice style? Just being intentional with who we bring into our feed is very important. There are shows that can also be very appearance driven. One that comes to mind is called Singles Inferno. It's a Korean dating show, and the people that they pick for the contestants, like, I don't know where they're finding these people. Like, the contestants on the show are so beautiful to a point where you can't watch the show without noticing their appearance. Other shows that come to mind are Keeping Up with the Kardashians, Love Island. Some K-dramas also give me the same vibe, but I guess based on my list, it's basically reality TV shows. I think it's important to just limit how much we expose ourselves to appearance-driven content, because the more we see it, the more we're likely to think about it. Next, it's helpful to know that people generally see you as a whole. Think about when you're meeting someone, you likely see them in their entire face and their body instead of like staring at their left eyebrow or their right nostril. This is different from how we typically look at ourselves in the mirror, where we fixate on very specific features that other people probably don't notice or care about. Ideally, you want to get to a place where you can also see yourself the way that others see you, which is as a whole rather than in your parts. What can help is throwing away any mirrors that zoom in really close to your face and show you all your pores. No one's talking to you up here like looking at all your pores on your face. Usually it's a healthy distance, so we don't need those mirrors. It's better to avoid those filters that change your face shape, especially those filters that can check if your face is symmetrical. Those are just pointless. They tend to make you notice things on your face that you didn't notice before, and you don't need to be worrying about them. Who's gonna notice if your left eyebrow is slightly higher than your right eyebrow? You don't need a scale. is something I wish someone told me when I was younger. This might be touchy, like we all have our own relationship with the scale, but I really don't think it's necessary for most people. If you're building a healthy lifestyle, which we all should be, it doesn't make sense to measure your weight. Going on a scale implies an end goal to your weight. All those healthy habits should be ingrained into our day-to-day, like we don't need a number to keep track of our weight. So I feel like I didn't explain that very well, so here I am. Basically what I'm trying to say is that we should focus on building those long-term healthy habits and lifestyle instead of caring so much about the number. The number measures us in one point in time and isn't as useful if we're trying to build something for the rest of our lives. Hopefully that makes sense. A lot of times that number just triggers negative feelings, and in the past it's motivated me for the wrong reasons. So I think for most people who are an average in weight, they probably don't need a scale. Do what you will, I'm not a nutritionist, I'm just a girl on the internet. When it comes to beauty routines, I think that simpler is always better. I think we should let go of some of our beauty rituals. Now, I'm not saying all of them because I like my beauty rituals, but I think we all have those beauty rituals that we do because we think we need to and we don't necessarily love them. Those can go. For example, one habit I know a lot of girls do is that they carry mirrors with them so they can check on their makeup. I never carry mirrors, mostly because I think I'm just lazy, but I don't like the maintenance. So I just try to find makeup that doesn't disintegrate within a few hours. That's like good quality. That way I don't need to carry a mirror around. I've also stopped wearing mascara every day because that shit takes forever to do if you have Asian lashes. There's like a very specific procedure to making your lashes stay up, and I just can't be bothered. Cutting these two habits out alone has saved me a lot of energy, and I think it's also helped me think less about my appearance. The next idea is that what you can do is more important than how you look. Researchers found that people who were attractive weren't any happier than people who were less attractive. Other things had a greater impact on people's happiness, like their career, their hobbies, their relationships, than being attractive did. I know some of you are probably rolling your eyes like, ugh, this bitch, like probably thinking that you would feel happier if you were prettier. I just like to believe that there are other things more important than something so fleeting and so temporary that would make me happy. I think it's cooler to meet someone who has a lot of passion and interest than someone who's cute, but they don't have anything going on. Like, that's so boring. Your friends and family probably don't care about how you look. Think about this. Do you care about how hot your friends are? Probably not. You're probably hanging out with them because they're fun to talk to and hang out with and you like spending time with them. So it's safe to assume that your friends and people around you feel the same. And if your friends do care about your appearance, do you really want them to be your friend? Like, do you really want people in your life who are only friends with you because you're hot? Sounds a bit shallow to me. So anyway, another thing that I think about is how beauty can feel powerful in a way. Like, if you're attractive, people gravitate towards you, they think you're more charismatic, blah blah blah. But I've always thought it was weird that people praise beautiful people for something they're born with. Like, the power that you get from being beautiful is not power that you earned. There's something to be said about power that doesn't last. It's not really power if it only exists if others can acknowledge that you're beautiful. It's power but with strings attached and very conditional power. They say that the wisdom that you gain when you're older, that should make you more powerful instead of how you look like. To me, it feels better to give no fucks about what people think about you. I think at best, we all get to a place where we accept our body as a whole. We might still have a few things that we're not happy with, but overall, we're okay with what we have. My relationship with beauty today is not perfect. On most days it's good. I still have days where I feel kind of shitty, as we all do, but I think the key is when I'm having those bad days to not have that hold me back from doing something that I want to do. Beauty is something I still think about, and it's something I think I will always think about. I'm a lot kinder to myself compared to when I was a teenager. I can go about my life, be free as a butterfly. It's not overpowering and all-consuming as it was when I was a teenager. I've accepted that I'll always be working on it. Well, that's all I have for today. And if you want to learn more, I highly recommend Beauty Sick by Renee Englund. It's what inspired this video. If you're too lazy to read the book, she also has a TED Talk that goes over similar themes as she does in the book. I hope you enjoyed this video because I spent an obnoxious amount of time making this. The perfectionist in me just couldn't let me put out something mediocre. Thanks for making it to the end. I will see you in the next video. Bye.